Today we take a look at another eMTB to utilize the Shimano Steps motor, the all-new 2022 Canyon Spectral On CF7. The 2022 eMTB lineup from the direct consumer brand Canyon is looking like it's about to shatter a few records. The base model, Spectral On CF7, is spec'd with what we usually expect a mid-tier eMTB from Specialized Trek or Santa Cruz to be. Canyon's approach on the 2022 Spectral On is to give riders the ability to ride further, faster, without imposing on weight penalties by simply reducing the weight and increasing the battery size. A very contradicting approach to making eMTBs. Usually when we want bigger batteries, we get a heavier bike. So can Canyon deliver on its statement and give us, the riders, what we want in a $5,999 base eMTB? The Spectral On CF7 is redesigned with a lightweight full carbon frame. That's right, that means a front and rear triangles are both carbon, versus previous versions where only the front triangle is composed of carbon material. It also has a mullet or mixed wheel size setup. It has a strange but unique travel with 150 millimeters up front and 155 millimeters of travel in the rear. The Spectral On is also rated for a 160 millimeter travel. Pretty cool to see a different approach from Canyon. And for those that are new to the channel, a brief overview of how I score these eMTBs. My rating system is based on a 10-point average system. The bike will be scored based on 5 categories: cost, battery, torque, integration, and components value. We then average the total score out of 50. We've scored 7 eMTBs so far, and the Rocky Mountain Altitude Power Play Alloy 30 still sits at the top with an average score of 9 out of 10. And today we're going to pit Canyon's 2022 Spectral On CF7 to see if it can take the Rocky Mountain Power Play Alloy 30's #1 position. Starting with the MSRP, the price is set at $5,999. What makes this a really decent price for the base model is that it is a full carbon construction and a huge 720 watt-hour battery. There really isn't many bikes out there that offers these two exact combinations at the base price. Both the Canyon Material Neo 7 and the Rocky Mountain Altitude Power Play 30 alloy on our list are full aluminum constructions. And even the YTD Koi Core 2 with the same MSRP at $5,999 is made of a carbon front and aluminum rear with a 540 watt hour. So I give this a solid 8.5 out of 10. And as mentioned earlier, the Spectral On CF7 comes with a standard 720 watt hour battery on every model. A spectacular job by Canyon. Personally, I ride on trail assist mode 90% of the time, but having to use assist at the end of a big ride or just plain catch up with a big group of riders really makes a big difference in having that 720 watt hour battery. A big 10 out of 10 in this category. Next, we look at the torque and the motor. The Canyon Spectral On CF7 utilizes the Shimano EP8 motor at 85 newton-meters of torque. I've been trying to figure out a better rating for the torque and the motor, and Danny from SoCal suggested I score according to the exact torque specs. In this case, an 85 newton-meters of torque will be 8.5. A 70 newton meters of torque will be a 7, a 90 newton meters of torque will be a 9. And I'm also working on a way to factor in efficiency, ride characteristics, and so on. This is just the first phase of our rating system. I'm working on ways to give you more information rather than just the specs. So for now, I give this an 85 newton meters of torque, an 8.5 out of 10. Also, be sure to go check out SoCal on YouTube. He has some great content, ride reviews for these awesome eMTBs. Next, we move on to the integration. With so many cables routing around eMTBs, especially with the added display and control around the cockpit area, Canyon has really done a superb job on the cable management and keeping things minimal. One of the best setups I've seen with the Shimano display and control. Just take a look at how minimal everything is on this bike. Effective, minimal, and clean. 9 out of 10. I said minimal way too many times there. Next, we take a look at the category of components value. I've updated the name of this category to make it less confusing. A great suggestion by one of my Patreon members, Sandy. Thank you for the suggestion. Greatly appreciated. So we basically go over 4 categories of components, specifically the fork, shock, drivetrain, and the brakes. We then assign a point to these 4 categories if the components in these categories do not hold the value. So the higher the amount of points, the lower the overall average. And starting with the fork, the Spectral On CF7 is spec'd with the RockShox Lyric Select, a very, very nice fork for a base model. You can also opt to upgrade the Lyric damper if you choose to for a pretty good, decent price. Great fork selection with no points added. Next, we take a look at the shocks. The CF7 comes with a RockShox Deluxe R. I feel this one's a bit weak for the 155mm rear. My first upgrade would be this rear shock. I would definitely beef this up to a super deluxe shock with the piggyback canister, but that's just me. Not all riders need the piggyback setup. Nonetheless, a decent shock for a base model, no points added. Now moving on to the drivetrain, the CF7 is spec'd with a 12-speed DeRore shifter and an XT derailleur combo. We've also seen this type of a setup in the Cannondale Moterra Neo 3, sacrificing the DeRore shifter for an XT derailleur. I think it's a good sacrifice, a good combo for a really good base tier model, no points added. Next, we look at the brakes. On the website, it just states that it's a high-power 4-piston DeRore ICE technology compatible. I'll just assume that it is equipped with the M6120 series, which is compatible with the ICE technology. A good base tier 4-piston brake set from Shimano, another good choice by Canyon, no points added. So with 0 points in this category, this will be the second bike we've rated with a perfect 10 in its components value. The first to get the perfect 10 was last week's eMTB that we rated, the YTD Koi Core 2. So now let's recap on the total points. With an MSRP of $5,999, it received an 8.5 out of 10. With a big 720 watt-hour battery on a base model, it received a 10 out of 10. With an 85 newton meters of torque, it received an 8.5 out of 10, and it received a 9 out of 10 in the integration and a perfect 10 out of 10 in the components value, giving us a total of 46 out of 50 points with a 9.2 out of 10 average, which places the Canyon Spectral On CF7 on our #1 spot. We have a new winner. So the big question is the bike worth $5,999? A big 9.2 of a yes. So much value on this bike. The specs are on par. The carbon frame with a big 720 watt-hour battery pretty much did it for me. Adding to that, the clean integration of the cables is such a nice touch. Again, very minimal. And please do not think the Shimano motor is better than the others. It's just that this bike really has some great specs and value if you're looking to buy an eMTB in 2022. So if you're interested in how I scored the YTD Koi Core 2 or the Rocky Mountain Power Play Alloy 30, please click on these 2 videos here. They're roughly in the same price range and build. So with that, we'll see you on the next one. Peace.